have the pleasure of having with me Assemblyperson Charles Barron and the incomparable Noel Leader. I want to get, first of all, before we even start, I want to say how good it is to have you back, Assemblyman. I know that you battle with the coronavirus, and it's good to see you back and on the front lines where you're supposed to be. It's you know, it's really good to have you back with us.
Well, I want to thank you so much. And you say back, I never left because I was fighting Corona, I was fighting Cuomo, I was fighting de Blasio, all at the same time. So even though I was really afflicted by that, when I went to Brookdale Hospital, I have to give them credit. You know, everybody beats up Brookdale because of, probably have reasons too, but a lot of the patients that were there with me, they were saying that they did a good job. But anyway, but I was really in pretty bad shape. At one point, I had pneumonia. I had 102-degree temperature. I had shortness of breath, and I knew I was in trouble when they isolated me. I was the first one detected with that, diagnosed with that at Brookdale. So being the first one probably had some advantages. And then a whole onslaught came after that. But when I was in, the doctor said, well, I want to let you know you tested positive for Corona, but you're not going to die. I said, don't be mentioning death in the same breath, you know, because that never crossed my mind. I got work to do.
Until now,
I just want to know what's the date of the discharge, because I'm getting up out of here. I got some work to do. But, you know, I was in ICU, intensive care unit, for 4 days. I stayed in the hospital for 11 days. Now getting on the other side of it after fighting back and going from nurses needed to help me up just to get in and out of the bed to now walking around my house. My queen was positive too. Now we both beat it. No, you don't beat it, you survive it, because this thing is kicking our butts. But we both are, we got on the other side of it, and both of us have antibodies now, and we want to see if that could be helpful to others. So we're exploring that. But you know, there's so much not known about this, whether you have antibodies or not, you still could catch it. So I'm not going to be walking out there saying, I'm immune. Let me take off my mask. I got antibodies. They just don't know what's going on. So that's my personal story. We are back stronger now than ever before. We're not going for the city opening up. We're not running out there. We've done more work getting masks for our district, getting testing in our district, getting stuff for Brookdale Hospital, ventilators, getting food for our seniors from our pantries and from the city and state, making sure our people have sanitizers, trying to help our Black businesses, you know, get that stimulus thing. That's what we've been doing all day. And then raising the hypocrisy of the governor. He's being touted as some saint across the country. Maybe he should be president. In his backyard, he had a $178 billion budget, and he presented a $2.5 billion cut in Medicaid. At this time, poor people, Medicaid, that's our access to healthcare is Medicaid. He cut that by $2.5 billion, cut another $300 million from the hospitals during a pandemic, and then he rolled back the no cash bail. We had passed the law. I didn't think it went far enough, but he rolled it back even more. So now judges can put more people in jail. It's a death sentence now when you go to jail. And these are pretrial detainees. This ain't even folk who were convicted of anything. So he did that. And then the most egregious part of it was that in this climate where there's a $10 billion budget deficit, and you know, I've been involved in 12 city budgets, multi-billion-dollar budgets, 5 150, $70 billion state budgets. Never have I had to deal with a budget where you had no revenue package on the rich. Nothing. We showed how he could have easily closed his $10 billion deficit by taking one tax, the stock transfer tax that's already in place, and they get $13 billion from the stock market. They get it, it's in their hands, and then they rebate it back to Wall Street and don't take a penny for the people of this state. There is a pied-à-terre tax. That is a tax on the second rich mansion of those billionaires who don't even live in the country. That would have given us $650 million. A wealth tax on the wealth of those making billions, another 4 billion. A millionaire's tax, 2 billion, those making 5 million a year and 10 million a year. He did none of that, zero. So he balanced the budget, and these Black elected officials and Latino elected officials. We have a head of the assembly, Carl Hastie, a head of the state assembly, Andrea Stewart Cousins. Both of them hooked up with the governor, got the state legislature to support this budget that had no taxing on the rich, flattened education, didn't raise it a penny. That's like a cut because all the prices went up. And if your allocation doesn't go up, you got to find that money. We had $400 million for NYCHA from some capital money for boilers and fixing the roofs. Cut that out. That was gone. This was a right-wing conservative austerity budget that used cuts to social service only for balancing the budget. And these folk up there passed that. And they even gave him the power to cut again without the legislature's approval. This was the worst budget ever. I did have to give credit to some. We worked hard. We got about 17 so-called Democrats to vote against it. We were 5 votes short of defeating that budget. But too many Blacks and Latinos and the heads of both places supported this grotesque budget. He's not a hero. He shouldn't be president. He should be fired from the governorship.
Let me say before I say anything that, I think I also echo what Nat said. Thank the Creator for you, being completely with us and healed and victorious. Your voice is so needed because, you put a perspective to things that most politicians don't talk about. We know at the core of all systems in the society is racism. And when people discuss, budgets, policing, and other matters, most politicians always leave that out as if it doesn't have a place, in the disparities. I took issue with this particular governor, when they had the first mobile testing location in Staten Island, which is one of the most, it's not as densely populated as the rest of the city. It just so happens to be the whitest borough in the city. Do you think that the governor is benefiting because we're in the midst of a health crisis, by passing such a disproportionate and unfair budget? Do you think that, he got some play because it's time to?
You know what, Noel, you just hit on the key to what we call in Naomi Klein's book, disaster capitalism. Disaster capitalism. This is how they manipulate things that they may not have been able to get done during a regular time. They use this disaster to now do stuff in the climate of people panicking, not knowing what's going on. They're able to do things and get by because of the disaster. For instance, to give you an example of that, Donald Trump, who couldn't get money to build a wall and stop immigrants from coming in. We got a coronavirus crisis. I have to stop all the immigrants from coming in. Another, the tsunami in Indonesia. It destroyed the fishing industry that the people of Indonesia had monopolized. And the system, the government, and the rich wanted to get that shoreline so that they can build golf courses and rich clubs and all of that along the line and offer the water as an attraction. Well, the tsunami wiped out the fishing industry and enabled them to now do what they couldn't do without the disaster. And of course, there's Katrina in the 9th Ward. All of that, they wanted to get rid of public schools. They wanted to bring in charter schools. So when Katrina hit, they were able to do that. And now the public schools are gone, most of them, and have mostly charter schools. And then the French quarters, they wanted some housing that was around the French quarters, some of it wasn't even destroyed, but they said we got to knock that down to expand the French quarters. This is what this low-life governor is doing, is saying, we're broke, $178 billion, you're broke. I have to cut education. He was on the TV, I'm gonna cut more. I have to cut education, I have to cut education. I looked at the budget. Why don't you cut the subsidies, the multi-billion dollars worth of subsidies that these rich developers are getting to build housing that's not really affordable? Why don't you cut some of the bonds and stuff that you're giving them for free? There are areas that you can cut. And in the city, it's called management efficiency cuts. Why don't you look at the city's contracting budget? Cut the contracting budget, $16, $18 billion worth of contracts. The Board of Education has like $4, $5, $6 billion worth of contracts. Yeah, you need contracts for busing and food and certain things. So they think I'm anti-contracts. Every time I raise this, you know, you need, don't give me no elementary school lesson on how we need contracts. What you don't need is $58 million for general services. What the hell is that? What you don't need is a 90-something million dollars for computer training. That contract budget can be trimmed. The contract budget for the state can be trimmed. The subsidies given to the rich can be eliminated since they don't do nothing for us anyway, and their taxes could happen. So yes, he's using that as an excuse to say they're broke, and they all have you focusing on Trump. We got to get help from the federal government. We can't get that out of this with the federal government. So you don't look at that $90 billion city budget, that $178 billion state budget, because you're looking at Trump. We need a federal bailout. Well, he's not going to do that. Even Gerald Ford years ago told the New York City to drop dead. He wasn't giving them anything. So by having you focus on Trump, it makes you not look at the budget itself and how they can do much better and not penalize us. And they're even trying to, people are so Trumpetized that they're trying to get you to vote for Biden because Trump is worse. I said, do me a favor, give me a reason to vote for Biden without mentioning the name Trump. My man couldn't say anything. And don't tell me he was Barack Obama's vice president. Just give me a reason, leave out Barack, leave out Trump, and tell me why I should vote for Biden. They don't have a reason. So on the national level, it's that Trump, you know, they're getting over by having us so fearful of Trump. If you look at the three budgets of Bush, Trump, and Obama, they are identical. The military budget is over 700 and some odd billion dollars, more under Trump and more under Obama than Bush. Israel got $3.7 billion in armaments under Bush, Trump, and Obama, before he left, signed a $38 billion 10-year arms agreement with Israel. An African leader, Muammar Gaddafi, died under Obama. More people were deported under Obama than any other president. And the so-called Affordable Care Act, yes, a few more people got health care, but you also had high premiums, you had co-payments, you had deductibles, and the private insurance companies are laughing their way to the bank because they couldn't even get a public option. And look at poverty. Under Bush, 25% in the Black community. Obama, 26% in the Black community. And Trump, 20-some odd percent in our community. So, you know, look, Trump is the worst thing that ever happened to this planet. There's no question about it. All 22 Democratic candidates are better than Trump. So if you use Trump as a low bar for saying why you should vote for somebody, that's a very low bar. Everybody's better than Trump. But we have to demand, and that's why I'm focusing on Black, radical, revolutionary politics on a local level. Let's take these city council seats. Let's take these assembly seats. That's doable because New York State, there is no national election. It's a state-by-state electoral college election. New York State is voting for Biden or whoever the Democrat is. So I don't vote for the president anymore. I gave Barack Obama a play the first time, second time, nah, hell no. He violated us. So I write in reparations now. That's my candidate. Reparations now is my candidate. And people say, well, if you don't vote for Biden, Trump's gonna win. We survived Reagan. We survived Bush. We survived slavery. We survived Jim Crow. We survived the Middle Passage. We will survive anybody that gets in office now. Don't play me. Don't play me in some fear tactic. So you don't have to do nothing for me, but I have to just stop that evil Trump.
Yeah, go ahead, man.
And you might have answered this, but it seems to me the most problematic thing that we have to deal with in relationship to healthcare at this particular time with coronavirus is the fact that they are trying so hard to keep in place predatory capitalism. They are desperate to make have people believe that the key to their health care, the key to their survival lies in getting the economy back. And the key to getting the economy back is propping up large corporations. This is not 2008. This is not a crisis of banking. This is a crisis that is hitting people, working people, and poor people. It's not hitting the banks. The banks are still making money hand over fist. What are your thoughts on that? Healthcare and the influence of predatory capitalism on the ability to get good healthcare.
That's a very, very good question, because capitalism is the problem. Capitalism is the root cause of our problem, and racism is the ideological foundation of capitalism. See, the system isn't called racism. There is no system called racism. The systems in the world are either socialist or capitalist, and sometimes they have Muslim fundamentalist, governments. So when you're fighting for healthcare and things of that nature, you got to look at the system of capitalism and then the racist ideology that it uses to keep us worse off than everybody else. I want to caution us for not doing racism without connecting it to capitalism. Because when you fight against racism, you're fighting for inclusion in a capitalist system.
Right.
You're basically saying, hey, there've been 43 presidents and all of them are white. That's racist. Okay, we'll give you a black president.
Right.
You're included in our system. Oh, Wall Street, all of the CEOs are white men. We don't have no black CEOs. Okay, this guy heads Time Warner now. We don't have enough, too many white police. Okay, here's some black police. And if they're not like Noel Leader and others, they're gonna beat you just as bad as the white police and protect the capitalist property. So if you constantly saying we want diversity, we want inclusion, you're not getting to the root of the problem. And that's what's happening with healthcare. We need a single payer, universal healthcare that happens all over the world. Countries in Africa that are poor, free healthcare. Cuba, free healthcare. Venezuela, free healthcare. Canada, free healthcare. Even England has a healthcare system that's single payer. Not America, not America. So we got to be careful not to get too caught up in just analyzing race and not looking at capitalism. That's the racist, capitalist, predatory system that has to be dismantled. And one of the things I'm hoping we can get out of this crisis, there's always an opportunity, is that we should look at the pre-existing condition of our communities before you look at the pre-existing condition of your personal health. Listening to our leaders, like the borough president, Eric Adams, he was saying that we need to get our diets together because the pre-existing condition of diabetes, the pre-existing health condition of high blood pressure, hypertension, you know, all of the disease. We have heart disease, upper respiratory disease, bronchitis, cancer. We have all of that. But where did that come from? It came from the pre-existing condition of capitalism denying us of healthcare. Poverty creates high blood pressure. Miseducation, inadequate healthcare, transportation problems, a food desert giving us fast foods. Who brings in the fast foods? Who creates the poverty? Who creates the mass incarceration? Who creates unemployment? We don't create that. Our reaction to that, we got to do better on. Yes, we need to eat better. We need to exercise. I'm working on that right now. But some people who ate well died with this coronavirus. And until you make your environment healthy, whoever controls your environment will control whether you live or die. This is why we need Black power, Black self-determination to control the environment that's creating poverty, that creates pre-existing health conditions, that makes any crises, makes us vulnerable to any crisis that comes because of capitalism, a neo-colonial community. We are colonized. We live in colonized communities. We don't realize that. The Black communities across America are domestic colonies. Even Dr. King called them domestic colonies because we are the majority, just like the majority in Africa. When the Europeans came to colonize, they had the majority in the population, but when anybody controls your land, your means of production, your businesses, your social institutions, the police, the schools, the health, the hospitals, you are a colony. You're not in control of any of that. And that's what I'm trying to do in East New York. You got to first get rid of neo-colonialism. The new way to colonize is put Black faces in high places and think you made progress because you integrated or you have diversity, as they call it. But the problem is we have to have, like the Black Panther Party said in our #1 platform point was that we want to control the destiny of the Black community. We got to have power to control our own destiny, power over all the cultural, social, economic, and political institutions in our local communities that govern our lives.
Charles, what you explained so eloquently is really it should be a position that's so easily seen and addressed, and I'm talking primarily by Black and Latino legislatures, because a lot of times they like to talk about the effect, but they don't want to get down to the nitty-gritty or the cause. I mean, you would assume that Black people, people of African descent, are automatically prone to these diseases, automatically prone to these illnesses, as if the social climate has no role whatsoever.
Exactly.
If they were serious in addressing this, the issues or our effects or our problems, they would go to the cause. They would address the cause, but this doesn't seem to be happening, and they don't, attribute these resources. Now I understand, who controls the resources is a big picture with this. When you were talking about the budget, I would assume that you would, give money to where it's really needed. Rich folks don't need money. People who have access don't need money. Well, my question to you is, when I sum it up, is like, what is the, even when you talk about my good brother Eric Adams, like, what happens to individuals who are intelligent, analytical, who are able to break down the problem, who live in the Black community so they should know things in this nation? What happens when they get into office and they don't have the arguments that you have?
You know what, Noel?
They don't present the arguments.
You just asked $1 million question. I tell you what happens. Number one, capitalism is not just a political and economic system. It's a value system. So under capitalism, the value is look out for number one, to each his own, survival of the fittest, rugged individualism, opportunism, personal ambition takes precedence over the liberation of our community. The party,
personal ambition.
Yes, personal ambition, the party over the people, profit greed over need. So if you get a black elected official, Martin Luther King said in 1968, he said, you know, the white power structure produces these black leaders, gives them prestigious positions, gives them resources, as long as they can control them. And he said the masses get very angry, and rightfully so, at these manufactured leaders. This is Dr. King. He called them manufactured leaders. So what neocolonialism does, we can't let no leader in because we ain't gonna have him under our control. But we can let those others in because the first thing they do is they get in by way of the party. So if the Kings County organization in Brooklyn says to Adams or whomever, you know, I will support you for mayor. I will, you know, Jews, we're gonna give you some money. The Asians, you know, we're gonna support you, but we listening, we hearing what you're saying. Get away from Barron. And you was talking about getting rid of that high school test for the Asians. Sat with me 1 week, and the next week he's changed his mind and said, I had an epiphany, you know, when they start threatening his money. And I called up Eric, you know, when I was ill, he was nice enough to call me. We talked about diet and everything, and he wonders why I raised this. I like Eric, he's my brother, but I'm just talking politically, not personally. Not personally. Right. Personally, I like Eric. Eric came out of my movement. You know, Noel.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So I only mentioned him, and the others. The same thing with Carl Hasty. The same thing with Andrea Stewart Cousins. They are only interested in saving the Democratic Party and their personal ambition. Let me show you how we should be so powerful if it was just about race and being in position. Sir. Check this out, Nat. Mm-hmm. Black head of the assembly, black man. Mm-hmm. Head of the Senate, black man. Attorney General, black woman. Public advocate, black man. Mm. The majority leader in the assembly, black woman. The majority leader in the city council, black woman. The head of the largest Democratic organization in the country, Kings County, a black woman. The head of the Manhattan Democratic Party, a black man. The head of the Queens Democratic Party, a black man. A head of the Bronx Democratic Party, a Latino. Well, how the hell we so powerless? How the hell we have so much poverty? How the hell we can't stand up to all of these budgets and these police and mayors and governors with all of that black leadership and these positions? Above them is the real ones in control. At the top, it's the governor and the mayor and the speaker of the city council. And then they control a lot of the Democratic Party. They determine if you're going to get on the ballot or not. They do fundraisers for you. So you wind up dependent on that. We won because when they offered me $1,000 in the do fund, we said, no, we don't want your money because we ain't no Democrats. We using you like you use my people. I don't have a Democratic bone in my body in terms of the party. I don't go to none of their meetings. They said, oh, we'll help you get on the ballot. Do it ourselves. No thanks. We get on the ballot ourselves. We do our own fundraisers. And we won the city council seat, the state assembly seat. We also won the district leaders, the male and female district leaders. Me and Inez got that as well. We control the community board, A.T. Mitchell and Man Up and all that. They control the community board. We also have the county committee. We have the judicial delegates. That whole 60th district and 42nd is ours. It's ours. Let me tell you how powerful that is. I don't put a lot of light on it because I don't want the spotlight and them start coming after us unnecessarily. But look, what we've done is even more powerful than Ocasio. Mm-hmm. Hers was more historic, impacting. And then the right wing blew it up because they wanted to turn the Democratic Party into socialist. to get them, you know, fighting each other. Nancy, the corporate Democrats, Nancy Pelosi, Hakeem Jeffries, and all of them versus the Justice Democrats, you know, and they have that little internal thing. But look at Ocasio. She won a congressional seat. Everything under her is machine. City council, the 2 district leaders, the state assembly, all of that is machine. Everything above her is machine. Nancy Pelosi and them in Congress, she's not going to get nothing passed. There's not going to be no Green New Deal. There's not going to be no universal healthcare, free this. None of that's going to happen. Good for their movement, you know, and I don't want them to keep fighting. I have nothing against them, but that's the reality for us, Noel, Nat. We got to look on a local level to get rid of these neo-colonial Black puppets of the Democratic Party in the city council seats and the state assembly seats, where we can actually exercise power. Do you know East New York is not gentrified? You know that, no?
Yes, sir.
You
Yes,
go
sir.
out there. I came in, East New York was 69% Black and 19% Latino. We are 71% Black and 20% Latino. When I came in there, 8% of East New York was white. Now it's 6%. I didn't run them out. They're left on their own, no. I'm totally innocent.
Right.
And when people tell me, oh, but they're going to gentrify, I saw 6 whites on the 3 train. I said, they're passing through. They just
and just because there's been a lot of housing in your district as well.
A lot. We brought in 10,000 units of housing. And the way we did it, the reason why I did the city council, no, Nat, this is about power.
Right.
You got to get power. Everything else is irrelevant. You know, you can march around singular issues and get a lot of attention. You might get hundreds of thousands following you. We've done that with police brutality. Who was convicted other than the Volpe for sticking the thing up Admiral Luima's Richter, Volpe and the sergeant? They're the only 2 convicted. Look what we did for Amadou Diallo. They walked. 41 bullets, 50 bullets next for Sean Bell. They still walk. So this is incredible that you got to look at power.
Right.
And you can't ignore state power. That's why I got into the electoral arena. What we've done in East New York, no, it'll blow your mind. We have 4 parks renovated for over $20 million. We have 3 new $80 million plus schools that they built, because I sat on a committee and I argued with them and I said, you know, you're not going to just build schools in the white community. I want some in the Black community. I got 3 new schools. We just completed a $12 million 2-story state-of-the-art youth center that Man Up runs, along with, we still have to deal with white not-for-profits, Good Shepherd. They still have too much control in there, but it's ours. Right. And all Black people from our community are running it. We'll run them out sooner or later, but right now, we got that. We even got a new library coming in. And when a developer comes to me and says, we're building affordable housing, this is how Harlem was gentrified. This is how Crying House was gentrified. And this is how that bump on a log in Bedford-Stuyvesant, Robert Carnegie, and what's the name from Crown Heights, Laurie Cumbo, this is how they get over. A developer comes to you. It's a thing called the ULA process, the Uniform Land Use Review process. When they come to a community, the power to determine whether they could build anything or not on city-owned land is the city council. They first go to the community board, that's advisory. Right. The borough board, advisory. Then they go to city planning, and city planning sends it to the city council. So when the developer sits down with me and says, we're building affordable housing, I say, affordable to who? So he sits down, this is what actually happened. He said, I'm building 150 units over there on Blake or whatever. And I said, put the pictures away. What's the AMI? He said, excuse me, the area median income. What is the income requirement for people to get into your housing? He said, it's 80% affordable. It's affordable. I said, define it. He said, according to HUD, HUD said 80% of New York City's metropolitan area, AMI, area median, 80% of that is what they define as affordable. So I said, sir, New York City's metropolitan area, AMI, at that time is 86,000 for a family of three. Now it's 95,000 for a family of three. 80% of that is $70,000. Back then it was 64. It's $70,000 now.
Right.
So I said, what's my neighborhood AMI? I don't know. I said, well, let me tell you why this meeting is terminated, and you're getting the hell out of my office. Number one, you insulted my intelligence. You come into my area saying you're building affordable housing for my people.
Exactly.
You
And
don't
you don't
know
even
the
know,
You don't
right,
know. Yeah.
median income of my local
Right.
neighborhood.
which
This
is a
meeting
lie.
is terminated.
Right,
I'll see you in 3 weeks. He said, I can look that up now. No, I'll see you in 3 weeks.
right,
He came back 3 weeks later. I said, what's the area median income of my area?
right,
$36,000
right.
for a family of three. See, that's how they gentrify. So I told him, I said, now, let me cut to the chase. This is what's going to happen, or your project is dead. I said that with no shirt and tie, with a picture of Malcolm behind me, with my red, black, and green flag in my office, with I had these little heads of Hugo Chavez and Fidel Castro and Che Guevara. He was looking at them and said, those are nice. So with all of that, I said, this is what it's going to be. 80% of your units are going to be for those of us making $25,000 to $45,000. 80% of them. 20%, because I know I have some people that might work, for the police department or whatever, that making 60, 70, 80,000. 20% are going to be in the 60 to 80,000 range. That's affordable. And let me tell you something else, sir. He said, could you sign that? No. Well, now we're going to talk about the rent. You're not charging no $1,500 for a 300 and some odd square foot studio. First of all, the studio is going to be $425 square footage, and it's going to be $600 a month rent. Secondly, 1 bedrooms you have for $2,500, you better knock that down to $900. 2 bedrooms, it ain't going to be no $3,000. It's going to be $1,100. But I won't be able to build a candidate. Yes, you can. I said, go get your welfare. He said, welfare? Oh, excuse me. Y'all call them subsidies? See, when you get free money from the government, it's something cute, subsidies. When we get free money, it's welfare. So either we all on welfare or we all on subsidies. Go get your welfare. I looked at your project. That's how you're going to make money off this. Instead of you making $12 million off this deal, that's what you had, because I researched your whole project. You're only going to make $6 billion, and you should be happy I'm allowing that. That's what's going to happen. And no, you go through East New York, that's why we're not gentrified, because whites make too much money to get in, because I brought down the area median income. Every one of these Negroes could do the same thing.
Right. See, that's my point, Ned. I'm sorry.
No, go.
I mean, our community needs to know, especially the ones that are being gentrified, like Bedford-Stuyvesant, that the local politicians have a say in the demographics, the building, the construction, the new projects. They have a say in who gets approved and who doesn't get approved. Yeah. A lot of people don't know that.
They don't know that. Carnegie, I remember talking to him about one of his projects, near the funeral home there. And there, what is that on Fulton and Troy? You know that funeral home there.
Yeah,
Yeah, but anyway, he 100 units right there. I said 80% of those are going to be market. What are you doing? That's how you get gentrified.
Right.
100,000 a year you have to make, 130 you have to make, and then they built in this affordability with the city to make you think that all of the projects are affordable. So they put it as a part of it. For you to get subsidies, you have to give in to this affordability formula. And it's 80-20. 80% could be market, 20% is affordable, but that 20% ain't even affordable because it's 80% of the AMI, which is not affordable. So his Bed-Stuy's AMI is about 50-something thousand. Those units that he's talking about are over 100,000, 80% of them. That brings in gentrification.
Right.
Out here in the northern part of East New York, which is outside of my district, de Blasio came with Espinal, who's in the, the northern part of my district, got him to sell out. And 6,000 units coming in, 50% of them are market. Then 50% of the 50% that are left is 80% of the AMI. When you get down, it's about 10% that we can really afford. But then they do these other things. Oh, we're going to build you a new school. Oh, you're going to have a nice park. We're going to create jobs. I said, don't come to me talking about jobs. Don't come to me talking about jobs, because our people are struggling for jobs. We're trying to survive. I want Black general contractors.
Right.
Not subcontractors for minority business and us Black GCs. I got 2 now. There's only 2 that we were able to get, because some of our people weren't ready, and then they weren't going to give it to a lot of other people. But we could create our own jobs if you're the general contractor.
Exactly. I'll hire you.
Yeah, right, exactly. I don't need you to give me a job. We'll create our own jobs. So now in our Operation Power, we started with getting the local politics. Black radical independent leaders have to get the local politics. We did that, and it transformed our community. You see what's happening out here. We have so many new housing developments, and even got over $6 million over the last 6 years for some of our not-for-profits that are working good in our community. There's so much that we got done. McCuney scholarships. I mean, I can do the rest of this broadcast telling you all the great things and how many times I was able to drive to a precinct at midnight and tell an inspector, look, let this guy go. He's a little, he's cool. All right, Mr. Barron, we'll give him a desk appearance ticket. I said, did you process it yet? Did you send it to Albany yet? I said, don't do it. I got to run down there and say, ho, don't process it yet. But just because we in these positions. So I'm trying to tell some of my revolutionary friends, my radical friends, they don't care if you call them Uncle Toms and sellouts and all of that. They could care less. You can't beat them.
Right.
So you can call them what?
See, Assemblyman, you, first of all, are prepared for the assignment that you've been given, and you are focused in what you want to do in regards to your people. There are a lot of people who call themselves radical, but do not prepare for the assignment that they have been given. When you talk about the median income of the city and the median income of your the communities that you represent, I guarantee that those numbers that the person that you were talking to at that time were all in his head. He did not expect you to be that well prepared.
That's right.
First of all, when we get a lot of politicians, especially the local politicians, state politicians, city politicians, in the council, in the state senate, in the assembly, they are either not prepared, and a lot of times you don't have to be prepared if you are just going to acquiesce to the system.
Exactly.
So we have to get our people prepared for the assignment at hand, and we have to find people who are focused on the job at hand.
You another excellent point. But what capitalism does? This is the real pressure of capitalism. If you are just focusing on survival, you're not going to be focusing on how you could be creative, imaginative, and political, and get an ideology. Anybody want to hear that? When I go up to them in the hood, they say, hey, you going to give me a job? You going to put some clothes on my back? You going to help me pay my rent, my mortgage? Now I can say, yes, I did. I got you over 2,000 jobs out here, putting clothes on your back. We got you some salaries out here that you never had before. You're gonna pay your rent. You know, that's up to you to pay the rent. But we got you in a position to pay low rent. We got you parks. We renovated your whole thing. Now, can I talk to you about revolution? They'll hear you.
Right.
See, Amilcar Cabral, the great revolutionary from Guinea-Bissau, he said, bear in mind, the people are not fighting for ideas in your head. They're fighting for material benefits and for a future for their children. So mask no difficulties, tell no lies, and claim no easy victories. He was saying to the brothers that he was with, and they were into armed struggle, he was saying, our people don't want to hear about revolutionary rhetoric. How are you going to benefit them material? The Black Panther Party, that I was a part of, they understood that you can't go talking about revolution and anti-capitalism and Mao Tse-Tung's little red book. You better get a free breakfast program going. You better get some free clothing going. You better get 40 health clinics, free health clinics in our neighborhoods, and take care of the dental work we need for free. See, we have a dual struggle, Noel, that we have to deal with. One, a struggle for survival. But two, it must be connected to a struggle for liberation. Because if you don't connect it to liberation, you're not going to survive this monster. Capitalism needs to be dismantled. We need to, that's why I always speak revolution. I said, Charles, man, you're talking revolution. How are you going to beat America as the army and the powerful economic? I said, listen, you are making less sense than me. Tell me, what power was permanent and forever?
That's right.
Some people say, how are you going to beat capitalism? Why would you think it's going to last forever? Any leader that subscribes to the permanency of our oppression is not fit to lead us.
That's right. That's right.
Not me. Don't get mad at me. You ain't turning America into no socialist country. You ain't going to liberate Africa under scientific socialism. Oh, so you think that capitalism is forever? Get out of my way. Get out of my way. Get out of my way and go ahead and try to survive the system. And when they knock you upside your head, or when they put you out of your apartment, or you find yourself unemployed, don't come running to me and say, Charles, you got to do something. Look what they did to me, because I forewarned you.
Right.
So the challenge out of this, Noel, is how do we use this pandemic and say, now listen, I don't need no more statistics to tell me that Black people are dying more. You know what I fight for now? I said, just send me my PPE, my mask and stuff. I need them. I got thousands out of the system to give to my people. Send me the ventilators for my hospital. We got some. Send me more workers for the hospital, more nurses. We got a few. Send me more testing sites so you could test my people. See, that's the immediate crisis.
Right.
And because I'm in the position I'm in, I can address that. I'm not on TV like some of the others with the mask on giving out stuff for their political purposes. You haven't seen me do that. And I have a lot of public housing developments, and all of them have masks and they have sanitizer because the state provided it. And we put pressure on them. My seniors in the senior citizen centers, I just put pressure on DFTA, they're getting their food. I'm looking at masks. I just gave out 4,000 masks to some of the other developments that are not NYCHA. And I wasn't on TV. I could have gone out there and say, hey, come line up, come get your mask. Hi, I'm giving out masks.
There's a camera on.
Look at me. I'm giving out masks. Hey, let me squirt the sanitizer for you on the little baby's hand. You know.
Let me ask you, switch channels just a little bit. The mayor and of course the governor stated that there's going to be this social distancing enforcement. We've seen statistics that have come out that the overwhelming majority of people being arrested and summons is in the Black community. 80%. We see members of the Hasidic community over and over again, ignoring the social distancing. We had the mayor allegedly come out and threaten them. I mean, I think this is preposterous. It's good to the sense that we get an idea of how it normally is. But even under a pandemic,
Right.
even under a circumstance where our community is suffering more than other communities, there is no letting up on this racist, disproportionate enforcement by the New York City Police Department and the mayor, and nobody's saying, I'm talking about as far as they're concerned, no one is saying anything.
Right. Well, you know, I put something out there on the media, and then we put a press statement out. There's only 2 entities that could do anything about that from the state level. Immediately, the first thing you want to happen, which rarely happens, is you want the commanding officer from that precinct to be removed,
Right.
and the officers to be fired.
Right.
That's from the mayoral and the police level. So to get that, politicians got to speak out. You got to take it to the streets and protest and demonstrate, and we've done that. That's one piece. That's to deal with the immediate thing. The longer range thing is Inez and I are working on an elected civilian complaint review board that has the power to prosecute. See, we have that going into the city council right now, so that if we can get an elected, and they'll be elected from our areas, and these people would sit on a empowered community complaint board, review board. That's power. The second thing that you do, and we've done this for years, is you got to get the DA to prosecute, because the police department can't prosecute, even if they do their internal affairs stuff, and they usually slap them on the wrist, say you're losing vacation time, or, you know, suspended, or you behind the desk making your money, you can't go on the street. That's what the police, and the police ain't getting it.
Right.
So I wrote a thing criticizing Eric Gonzalez, the DA, saying that your silence is deafening. How could all of this be happening? The people were focusing on the police precinct. What about you, Eric?
Right.
He didn't even, it wasn't until me and Inez put out that press release, and I heard that someone in his office got it and went to him. You know, he called me that night, the same night that we put out the press release. He said, Charles, I just want to let you know that you know, the population at Rikers is decreasing, and I'm not going to prosecute anybody that the police arrest for social distancing violations. I'm not prosecuting that. And I said, Eric, it's not a crime. That was an executive order. So you're not prosecuting that. It's no big deal, because you're not supposed to. And they're not supposed to arrest people for that. They're supposed to give them masks and stuff like that, like they do to white boys and girls. So that's nothing, Eric. What else are you doing? Well, we released some people that, Eric, you've said nothing to date on this. You need to say something. He said, all right, Charles, I'm gonna write a piece, and I'll do it, and I'll put it out there the next morning. And I told him some things he might want to consider. Don't be chastising us about violating social distancing. Said in the beginning of your piece, it should be, you know, that you are outraged that you saw these tapes, and that you're launching an investigation, and that where it warrants, if anything comes up that it warrants, I'm going to prosecute, bring forth criminal charges. He did it. Now, I've had that done before. And I said, Eric, even though you did that, he said, Charles, did you see the statement? I said, yeah, you did it. But I also was with you and Ken Thompson when not only did you write a statement, you indicted Peter Liang, convicted Peter Liang from the Kai Gurley shooting, and then you said he shouldn't go to jail. So usually, no matter what you say, police don't go to jail. I said, Eric, the best thing you can do, you saw the tape, put them in jail for assault. That's obviously assault. Some of them were cuffed, there was no resistance, and it doesn't matter what happened before that. It only matters what happened in that moment. Even if some of them would have done the worst thing you could think of, once they're handcuffed, that's it. You have to stop. You can't be on his neck with your knee and punching him. He's already, he ain't even resisting.
Right.
And you came into his space. He didn't come into your space. I said, so when you see something like that, you're the only thing we have,
right,
other than what we're gonna do in the streets. And a lot of people can get hurt. Police could get hurt. Innocent people could get hurt. You're it. You're supposed to be the people's attorney, not the police's attorney. You got to prosecute. So, you do that. And then you raise the consciousness of our people. Y'all got to join some organizations. You got to get down in our movement, because most of you that are hurt
don't belong
ain't involved in nothing.
Right.
And we got to come to your rescue. If you think of all the cases we've had, Noel, none of them were people in the movement.
That's right.
None of them. So out of this, I'm hoping that we can get people to organize. See, there's a difference between mobilizing and organizing.
Right.
When you're mobilizing around singular issues, that's a lot of motion. But when you organize for power, see, in every community, we should be organizing for power. And the power is in the state. And then if we do stuff outside of that, I also don't think we can vote our way to freedom. We can't vote our way to radically changing the system. So we organize around the issue, make that organization effort mobilize and make it a more permanent organizing effort for power. And then in the long range, we got to organize for systemic change of the system, revolution. And we got to say it in our lifetime, even if it takes 3 more generations.
Right.
In the Battle of Algiers, remember that film from the 60s?
Yeah.
The Battle of Algiers. That was a classic film about the Algerian Revolution against the French imperialists. And they had this organization, FLN. First, they tried raising consciousness with the masses of their people in the Kasbah. And then they tried to get rid of the dope dealers and all of the bits. Then they said, they're not listening to us. We got to go into guerrilla warfare. They went into guerrilla warfare and they wiped out the entire organization, the French did. For 2 years, there was peace and calm. And then out of nowhere, the masses rose up and took the country back and kicked the French out because they raised their consciousness over generations. That's why people say, why you mention revolution? Why you mention socialism or radical politics? I said, because you got to mention an ideology. Any movement that doesn't have an ideology or a vision is like flying a plane without radar. You can move, but you won't know where you're landing because you don't have no radar. Ideology and vision guide you. If you lack that, then it's a lot of motion and you're still not resolving that singular issue. You know, we've been moving on police brutality. I've been moving on it for 50 years. So at least in the process of, so we doing Operation Power, people organizing and working for empowerment and respect in East New York, we have a small group. We meet twice, 2 Saturdays a month. I tell them, don't bring no problems from the community to these meetings. We do that the other 28 days. We have 2 offices, the City Council office, the State Assembly office. We have Man Up Inc. and East New York Restoration. We out there every day on the ground with our people. These 2 days, you're gonna learn about socialism and communism and Black revolutionary nationalism. You're gonna learn about African internationalism.